PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media here on Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and we have a really good show planned for everyone watching all around the world, as we are going to be doing a recap show here on tonight's episode. And it was definitely a good back and forth game, and I will say that there was definitely some moments where Vegas could have won this game, but we'll definitely break it down and talk about it here on Vegas Hockey Hub. But until then, I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to PRConnectionsRadio.com. Go to the website, check out all of the shows that are on there. We have about a dozen shows on the network, so go out and check every single show on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. Also, go to the YouTube channel, PR Connections Radio. We upload every single show to the YouTube channel. So my advice would be to go and check out all of those shows. I would highly recommend doing so. And also go to our YouTube channel, Vegas Hockey Hub. We're trying to upload every single day. So we try to put up shorts. We do live streams as well. So there's some good content we have on the Vegas Hockey Hub YouTube channel. And that's some more stuff that we can definitely talk about here on Vegas Hockey Hub. And before we get into the actual breakdown itself, I do want to say happy birthday to Zach Whitecloud. Zach Whitecloud's been a good member of the Vegas Golden Knights. He has been someone who the last couple of years has become a consistent member of your Vegas Golden Knights. So happy birthday to Zach Whitecloud. Definitely has been one of the best players that we have seen on the Vegas Golden Knights this season for Vegas. Now, the pregame notes, Logan Thompson in net for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I will say for Logan Thompson, it will be interesting to see how he performs for the Vegas Golden Knights, considering what has happened the last couple of games. I mean, Logan Thompson, some of those are not his fault, obviously, but it'll just be interesting to see what happens with Logan Thompson. So I'll say for Logan Thompson, him being in net for your Vegas Golden Knights, hopefully he can overcome what's happened the last couple of games. So I will say that when it comes to Logan Thompson, it'll be good to see what happens there. Now, to get into the actual game itself, so to begin the game, Paul Cotter had to serve a too many men penalty for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I will say when it comes to Logan Thompson, similar to what happened a few games ago with Calgary and with Arizona, back, on a back-to-back losing streak. With this Edmonton game, Paul Cotter serving a penalty for Vegas. Now, don't get me wrong, this was not necessarily his mistake. He's the one who had to serve the penalty, but it's kind of alarming how the Vegas Golden Knights are using Paul Cotter as somebody that, hey, there's a penalty, you got to go to Paul Cotter because he'll be able to use it. Now, the Edmonton Oilers, one thing I will point out with them, 3 penalties in first 20 minutes of play for the Vegas Golden Knights. And the unfortunate part for Vegas, and one aspect that I will call out Vegas for, no power play goals for Vegas. They went 0-for-3 on the power play, despite the fact that you had a high sticking at one point. You had interference from Darnell Nurse, and then a tripping penalty from Evan Bouchard. So the Vegas Golden Knights had plenty of opportunities in this game to really go out and win, and unfortunately, Vegas just did not do that. So I will say for the Vegas Golden Knights, not capitalizing on the power play is an aspect of tonight's game that you can definitely look at and say, unfortunately, was a down for Vegas, not capitalizing on the power play. And, about halfway into the first period, the first goal of the game, unfortunately, not done by Vegas, as Sam Gagner was scored for the Edmonton Oilers. It would be a 1-0 game. So Sam Gagner, the longtime veteran in the NHL. I mean, this is somebody who has been a long tenure, a long staple guy of the NHL. So for someone like him to get his third goal of the season for Edmonton would make it a 1-0 game for Edmonton. Now, to begin the second period, Mark Stone, the captain of the Vegas Golden Knights, pick up his 6th goal of the season assisted by Jack Eichel and Caden Korzak, would make it a 1-1 game for the Vegas Golden Knights. And Mark Stone definitely did a good job on this play. Jack Eichel with the setup. And Mark Stone and Jack Eichel being on the same line could definitely be a good thing to talk about moving forward. Because Mark Stone and Jack Eichel, we saw what he did last year in the playoffs. We could see what, they're doing right now. But Mark Stone really seems like you could put him on any line. You could put him with anyone, and he will work out for the Vegas Golden Knights. So for a guy like Mark Stone, definitely a good goal there. 6th goal of the season for the Vegas Golden Knights captain, Mark Stone. And unfortunately, speaking of Golden Knights, let's talk about a former Vegas Golden Knight, as Matthias Janmark, with his first goal of the season for the Edmonton Oilers, assisted by Connor McDavid and Matthias Ekholm, to be a 2-1 game for the Edmonton Oilers. And for Janmark, this is a guy, he's been bouncing around the NHL for a couple of years. He was in Chicago, Dallas, had a few years in Vegas, now playing in Edmonton the last 2 years. So for Matthias Janmark, him playing against Vegas, against a former team, first goal of the season for Janmark. And Connor McDavid, just good setup by him. Reason why he's one of the best players in all hockey. Connor McDavid with a nice setup on this play. And, I will mention when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers and the situation that they have, I look at Edmonton and they're starting to turn it around just a little bit. It's not insane. I'm not saying that they're going to go all of a sudden on a massive winning streak, but just comparing Edmonton to what they've done recently, this is a Vegas Golden Knights team that's lost 3 games straight. This is an Edmonton Oilers team who has won 3 straight games. They beat Anaheim. They beat Washington. Now they beat Vegas. They're going to take on Winnipeg in a little bit. But for the Edmonton Oilers, they're kind of on the reverse of what's going on with Vegas at the end of the month. So for the Vegas Golden Knights Edmonton Oilers game, they would be down 2-1 with 5 minutes into second period. Now, not even a minute after the goal from Matthias Janmark, Michael Amadio. It's a me, Michael Amadio. 4th goal of the season, assisted by Nick Waugh, ties it up once again for your Vegas Golden Knights, making it a 2-2 game for Vegas. And, Michael Amadio has been a very good player on the middle six. He is someone that when they picked him up on waiver claims from the Toronto Maple Leafs, he has been a good player long-term for Vegas. I have to always give props to Michael Amadio. He has been a middle six guy. He knows his role, and he does it pretty well. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, Michael Amadio, assisted by Nick Waugh, makes it a 2-2 game, ties it up into the first 5 minutes of period 2. Unfortunately, to kind of bring up Connor McDavid once again, 2 minutes later after the Michael Amadio goal, Connor McDavid with his 8th goal of the season, despite missing some time early in the year, assisted by Cody Ceci. Edmonton goes up by 1. And on this play, Connor McDavid just showed why he's the best hockey player in the world. His hockey IQ, the way that he set up the play from Cody Ceci, the execution. Connor McDavid did an excellent job here on this play to get past Logan Thompson and to score his 8th goal of the season for Edmonton. And, some people are saying, well, could this get worse for Vegas? Is there a possibility that Vegas could maybe get worse in this game? Well, unfortunately, 10 minutes later, with a few minutes left in period 2, Evander Kane, one of the biggest thorns in Vegas' side. Evander Kane, who has had a long history with Vegas, scores his 11th goal of the season, assisted by, once again, the best hockey player in the world, Connor McDavid, and a rising star in defense in Evan Bouchard. Now, Evander Kane has had a kind of a breakout year for the Edmonton Oilers. Them being brought in a year ago, they bring him over from San Jose after being in Winnipeg, after being in Buffalo. He spent a good amount of time in San Jose, and then Edmonton brings over Evander Kane. And wow, what a job Evander Kane has done in the 2 years he has been in Edmonton. When you really just stop and analyze it, he had a really good 20-goal season in year 1, kind of limited his penalty minutes. The year after, his points kind of went down just a bit, but then in this season, to have 11 goals on the year. Evander Kane doing a good job for Edmonton, ever since being brought over from San Jose. And Evan Bouchard setting it up as a defenseman. Evan Bouchard, one of the actual favorite defensemen I like to watch, by the way. He is someone that I think could be a rising star in the NHL. Evan Bouchard, I respect his game. He's definitely a guy you got to watch. And then Connor McDavid, 20 assists on the year. That's, by the way, 8 goals, 20 assists, 28 points for Connor McDavid. And let's just talk about it. He's only played about 12 games this year because he had to miss some time. So for Connor McDavid to have 28 points just reconfirms how dominant and how great Connor McDavid is. So after period 2, Vegas would be down 4-2 against Edmonton, but Vegas would turn it back around. And oh yes, Vegas would turn it back around as halfway into period 3, Ben Hutton with his first goal of the season for your Vegas Golden Knights, assisted by Michael Amadio and by Paul Cotter, would get it back into 1 for Vegas. So Edmonton 4, Vegas 3, thanks to Ben Hutton with his first goal of the season. We did a player profile on Ben Hutton a while ago here on the channel, and this is a guy who's definitely had to pay his dues, and he is someone who's earned his opportunities in the NHL. So for Ben Hutton, first goal of the season, assisted by Amadio and Cotter. And after a few, very physical type of situations, some good back and forth going on, William Carrier was penalized for holding. Evander Kane had a tripping penalty against Zach Whitecloud. Even Connor McDavid had a tripping penalty against William Carrier, and Jack Eichel had a slashing call against Darnell Nurse. Well, I will say with a few minutes left in the game, there was no penalty minutes in the final 10 minutes of the game. Your last penalty was Nick Hague with a slashing call. So for the Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton, with how physical these games are, it actually was commendable how the final 10 minutes had no penalties. There were some physical moments, don't get me wrong. Evander Kane, very physical player. But for the Vegas Golden Knights, it was a good call by them to have the discipline to not have any penalties in the final 10 minutes. And with about 4 minutes left in the game, Keegan Kolazar with his first goal of the season, assisted by Nick Waugh. That'd be his second assist of the night. And the birthday boy, Zach Whitecloud, with the assist, would make it a 4-4 game for the Vegas Golden Knights. So setting up an overtime game between Edmonton and Vegas. Now, there was an opportunity for Vegas. There were some really good opportunities in overtime, but no puck went in the back of the net for Vegas. Happily, no puck went in the back of the net for Edmonton. So at the end of overtime, it was still 4-4 between Vegas and Edmonton, and they would head into a shootout. Now, Edmonton would win the shootout, and in fact, they would clean sweep the Vegas Golden Knights 2-0 in a shootout. Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins would pick up the goals in a shootout for Edmonton. So your Vegas Golden Knights would not pick up the victory. Unfortunately, your Vegas Golden Knights now drop to 14-5-4 on the season. Now, it's still early on in the year. There's still some stuff we could talk about on that front. But when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, I kind of look at them and say, all right, we're past the quarter point. We're past the quarter mark of the season, but there's still some time for Vegas to turn this around. 3-game losing streak, you never want to have that, of course. But for Vegas, you really have to sit there and go, okay, where do you go from here? Because the Vegas Golden Knights did have a good recovery. I will give credit where credit is due. Vegas overcame a deficit in the first period, scored some goals in the second, and then in the third period, overcame a 2-goal deficit to get it back into overtime. And considering what anyone knows about hockey, every point matters. So just because you lost in a shootout does not mean that Vegas did not come away empty-handed. So 1 point is better than 0 for Vegas, especially later in the year with the seeding and the points. This game's going to matter when you get to the postseason. Your Vegas Golden Knights player of the game will go to Michael Amadio. Michael Amadio, this guy definitely deserves player of the game for what he did in this game. So he had that goal early on in the game, and then he had a crucial assist on the Ben Hutton play in the third period. Now, let's see what the stats were for between Vegas and Edmonton. The Edmonton Oilers outshot Vegas 34-27. They had the same amount of hits at 28 apiece, and the Edmonton Oilers had more penalty minutes than Vegas, 12-8. The face-offs were kind of even, Edmonton 52 to Vegas's 48. So it was kind of an even battle on the face-offs. But some of the stats that we have to break down real quick is actually very important for Vegas. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, they went 0 for 5 on the power play. Like I mentioned earlier, they did not take advantage of any penalty that Edmonton was giving them. And it's actually unfortunate on Vegas's front of how Vegas just could not capitalize. They just could not get the puck in the back of the net on any power play opportunity. So 0 and 5 on the power play. Edmonton was 1 for 3 on the power play. So Vegas Golden Knights definitely need to look at that. They had the same amount of blocked shots, 21 apiece for Edmonton and Vegas. And you also had the giveaway and takeaways category. Vegas had 22 giveaways, which is alarming. Vegas had 22 giveaways. That means they gave the puck up 22 times, as compared to only having 6 takeaways in the game. So despite the fact that they gave up the puck 22 times, Vegas still lost 5-4, which is really kind of an interesting take on that. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, I've actually kind of analyzed the goalies as well, because when you look at the box score for both goalies in this game, Logan Thompson, 30 on 34 shots, save percentage of 88%. Once again, this was just not a great night for Logan Thompson. Like I've mentioned the past couple of games, Logan Thompson just has not been the same Logan Thompson we saw a year before. Now, what I am hoping for, and what I think a lot of people are hoping for, is that it is a rough stretch for LT. Hopefully for LT, this is just kind of a rough patch, and then by the end of the year, it's going to be okay. Because later in the year, if you're having these stretches like he's having now, because like I said, he lost against Arizona, he lost against Philadelphia, he lost against Washington, he even lost against Anaheim. So losing 5 games in a row, that could hurt a goalie's confidence. It could hurt a way a goalie plays. So for a guy like Logan Thompson, hopefully it gets turned around. But yeah, 5 losses in a row for the goaltender, Logan Thompson, who is in net. And on the other side, the Edmonton Oilers, their goaltender, Stuart Skinner, the second-year goalie out there in Edmonton, 23 on 27 shots. He had save percentage of 85.2, worse than what LT's was. But yeah, I will say for the Vegas Golden Knights, hopefully this gets changed. And really considering what their matchups are moving forward, this is something that they're going to have to address. Because their next games, they have Vancouver on the last game of the Canadian road trip. You come back home, you play Washington and St. Louis, then you go back on the road, St. Louis and Dallas, and then you have your 4-game home trip against San Jose, Calgary, Buffalo, and Ottawa. So I will say for your Vegas Golden Knights, this is definitely something we have to address. Hopefully that we can start picking up some wins left, right, and center for your Vegas Golden Knights. And I will say when it comes to Vegas Golden Knights, this is definitely something that's going to have to be addressed later on. And hopefully it gets changed. Hopefully the Vegas Golden Knights start winning, having multiple losses in a row. Logan Thompson, 5-game losing streak in net. I will say for your Vegas Golden Knights against Vancouver, hopefully they can pick up a win on tomorrow night's game against Vancouver. So until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and this is Vegas Hockey Hub Recap, and we'll see you next time.